Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Crash, and today we are doing something that we've been doing for a couple of years now. I think 4 years now. Me and my friend on the side, Axel. We've done it
Hello.
for 4 years, and last year we had Trenton, and this year we have it as well.
Hey,
And if you guys don't know what this is, we are ranking every single Weekly Shonen Jump manga that released this year, or rather, last year. That is the actual calendar year. I've been having some people asking me to do Shonen Jump year, and I think I might do that next year. But for now, all the manga that were released in 2024, there was 12. And what I did was ask all of you to vote for your three favorites and your three least favorites, and I've done a list based on all of your votes. We had, I think, a bit over 600 votes this year, which is around 50 more than we had last year, which is always nice because we always have more votes. And so we have that list, and after we did that list, all of us ranked all of the rookies as well, from worst to best. I made an overall list of the four lists, and now we're gonna go through that overall list, and to every manga I'm gonna mention where it ranked on all of them, as well as the votes, like how many positive votes it got, how many negative votes it got, and some stats, some fun stats if I have some to share. And I guess we're gonna start with number 12. I think this is the first year where number 12 overall is not also the same as the voters list, but number 12 is Kyokuro Necromance. It had 37 positive votes, 181 negative votes, to a total of negative 144. It was still number 9 on the voters list, so number 9 of 12, but it was 12 on Axel and Trenton, and it was 11 on mine, so it ranked at the bottom. And I wanted to ask you guys, why was it your worst of the year?
Because it sucked.
Next.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't, to me, it wasn't the worst, but when I made the list for the voters, I was like, oh yeah, the Kyokuro Necromance was a manga this year. And when you guys gave me your lists, because it was before I made my one, I was also again like, oh yeah, that was a manga this year. So it was the one where I kept forgetting. I didn't rank it last because there was one manga that I thought was really, really bad, and this one I just thought was mostly forgettable. I think it's kind of sad because I don't know if you guys heard that. That was just something
Yeah.
just passed by.
Car in the background. Yeah.
So I think this year we had 8 manga from veterans, from previous mangaka. Some of them that were in the magazine, some of them that weren't. And this one was from the mangaka that drew Alien Zeria a couple of years ago. And Alien Zeria, sure, it was also a canceled manga, but it was pretty good. I think it had like some real cool elements. It was not everyone agrees with me, but I do think it was.
I'm with you.
I do think it was a pretty unique take on that manga, on that style, especially compared with something like Drama Queen, which, to be fair, Drama Queen is also a unique take on it, but I prefer Alien Zeria. And then we move to Kyokuro Necromance, and it feels like a more boring Shaman King to me. Like, it doesn't really.
Oh,
feel
I was gonna say it's Temu JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, Shaman King, sure. It's a discount version of either or, really. I mean, like, it's like, oh, you have a stand, but it's not actually a stand because copyright. And some of them are cool, some of them are like, eh. And it wasn't unique enough for what it was doing. Like, it starts out fine. Like, I do think it has a better start than Aliens area. I kind of like, well, how do I put this? both main characters kind of sucked. Like it's funny that like the author was just like, all right, you know what we really need? We need a main character that totally cares about his family both times. In an Aliens area, it was the brother caring for the siblings. In this one, it was the kid caring for his grandma. And like that was like the character trait that they had. There wasn't really much else to go on. It's and then like the middle got kind of muddled, but the ending was where it was just what the hell? Like
I'm gonna be honest, I
main
forgot
character,
the ending.
girlfriend, like
One of the craziest like axe manga endings we had for a while in Jump, for sure.
you, I mean, you would be the expert on that.
Yeah, I think I agree with both of you, especially in comparing it to like Aliens area. I really feel like Naba just sanded off the edges of his series and made something very just like fine, placid, which makes it worse for me because I know he's capable of something like really interesting. I thought the whole alien angle in the Aliens area was cool. It had a political element. I think the art had a bit more bite to it, and in Kokuto Necromance, it's just slightly more like fine. There's not enough. It's like less gritty than before. And in its place, you have like the discount Temu stands, and it's like, okay, I don't even remember the name of what they are.
No.
So it's not just boring. It feels like the author could do so much better, and then they bamboozle you with the ending, and it's like, huh? What is this? Was this planned from the beginning? I have no idea. Which is probably what it'll be known for. Although Crash, you didn't seem to even remember the ending, so I'm not.
He didn't remember the manga at all.
Yeah, I forgot.
He didn't remember that this manga existed until we told him about it.
I was like, oh yeah, I did read it. That's the worst part of it. I did read all of it. I remember feeling like it was more of a Shaman King because the stands, I'm just gonna call them the stands. They did speak with the characters. They did interact with the characters in a way that JoJo didn't. But again, Shaman King already did it as well. So I struggle to think of something that was unique about it from the things that I remember about it. It had cool color pages, I think. The art style, I normally like the art style of Nava, but the manga itself was
I liked the Marilyn Manson guy. That was pretty much all that I liked. And it's kind of sad when you like one thing about the manga, but
yeah, I don't know if I like anything about this. I like the one shot this is based off of, which is nothing like Necromance, but that's kind of it. I did want to say one more thing with the whole stand idea. I don't think it was ever really just delved into enough. It didn't appear fast enough. They didn't just explore it enough, like at all, in the time we got it. So it just really fell flat. But yeah, there's nothing about it I actually like. Maybe the design of the pink kind of stand thing that ate the other spirits.
the fairy one.
Yeah, the fairy one. It's kind of cool design, but yeah, like nothing else stands out to me.
I think the character designs of the characters, for the most part, are fine.
I think the big reason why we didn't get to expand upon them more is I'm guessing the editor was just like, all right, we got to do something. Like we got to get the story like moving. Like we're losing people, but it was a goner. Not to mention, was Kyokuto. I know we had a lot of U19s from last year. I can't remember. Was Kyokuto Necromance one of them?
I think so, yeah.
U19 was a big thing in 2024.
The return. The proper
return. Oh my god, it returned in a big way and not a great way.
Yeah. But I think that's all we have to say about Kyokuto Necromance. It sucked, and I barely remember it. Let's just say that. On number 11, we have a manga that I enjoyed, actually, kinda. It's Akutaku. It got 24 positive votes, 294 negative votes, 270 negative overall. It was number 12 on the voters list, bottom of the bottom. It was number 11 Axel's, number 11 on Trenton's, and it was number 9 on mine. So I liked it a little bit more than the rest of everyone else, it seems. But I get it. I get why people dislike it. I feel like, first of all, I have some connection with it, just in the sense of it's programming manga, sort of, game development. As someone who works, programming more or less, even though I don't work in video games, I related a little bit. I've programmed video games in college, so there was like something about it that I related and I enjoyed. I like the characters, honestly, the two main characters. But I feel like it has a lot of flaws when it comes to actually portray the elements of game design. Not even game design, but like programming. I know programming isn't cool. I watch people program every single day. None of us look cool. But I feel like we barely have them actually do the game. We have them like thinking of ideas, and then we skip to the game being made, and I feel like that undercuts a lot of the development part, and I feel like that's why a lot of people just don't care, don't relate, just tuned off of this one. I don't get how it's so hated, but I see why people don't like it.
To your point, like you said, it does a lot of telling without showing.
Yeah.
And there are ways to show things and make them interesting. It's been done time and time again. Shokugeki no Soma did it with making food. Dr. Stone did it with science. Bakuman did it with creating manga. Like, there are ways to visually represent things to make it interesting. There are absolutely ways that they could have delved more into the programming side of things, whether that was with, like making, let's say, like a chibi character that like represented doing a certain process or whatnot, similar to how, and not that it was great, but Dr. Stone had like robot Senku that explained certain things or whatnot. But it decided not to do those things. It like you said, like we've said, it just tells, and like we just skip to the end product most of the time. And for a series that's supposed to be about game development, it doesn't do that. And I'm also going to dispute the point that you said about having two interesting main characters. No, the male main character sucks. He absolutely sucks. Like, visually, he is incredibly boring. His giant alien eyes are drawn very inconsistently. So sometimes they're literally half the size of his face. And when he's not thinking about games, he's boring. I will give you the female main character. She is the only redeeming quality about this manga in my eyes. Like, she is interesting. She has a cool character design. I like her outfit. She is the one good thing about Hakutaku. And that is single-handedly the reason why it was above Kyokuto Necromance for me, is because of her.
Damn. Okay.
I'm on the camp of I don't like either of them. I think the main guy is really boring, and then I find the female main character really annoying because she's constantly trying to like drag people into her life, or like chasing them down and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, like that would be so annoying. Like how she ropes Seo in, who's also kind of boring.
Yeah.
The guy whose brother was killed by video games.
His brother was killed by video games.
Stupid. I mean, I heard about that before I got to that chapter, and I thought to be fair, I was expecting like something way more over the top than what we got.
Yeah.
It was such a meme.
It's so silly. I also like the Game Awards moment is a bit of a meme as well. I thought that was very interesting to see the Game Awards like pop up in a manga. It reminds me of there's a manga called Alice and Tayo, which was in Jump, and they had the same thing to do, like kind of same idea, but they were going to win the Grammys. But it's always odd when something like this shows up in, I guess, a Japanese manga to me.
Yeah, especially like the Game Awards, because I don't know about you guys, I never took it that seriously.
Oh no.
This year was the only year where I took it kind of seriously because I really wanted Bellator to win. That was the only reason.
I hate how addicted I've become to that game. That's a separate story altogether.
So good. But yeah, I don't normally see it as like as legitimate as something like the Oscars, for example. Maybe that's just me. So seeing it in the manga was even like, really, that's your goal, to win the Game Award?
Yeah, that might be part of the like the problem as well. It feels so unserious, and I don't know, it doesn't feel like it's building up its world or like showing you like game creation as a thing like people actually do. There's a lack of, I guess, structure, which makes it believable. So it's just like these two characters throwing their ideas out into the world, and it's hard to care, at least for me. I also find it generally kind of a little hard to like follow, especially like emotionally, like tonally. I don't really understand like why these characters are doing it often, other than they love video games. Like there was the whole bullying arc at the very beginning, which I felt like was so inconsequential. They barely touched on the topic. It didn't feel like it needed to be there. And only very recently do I feel like it's actually found its footing, which is way too late, because I don't see it going anywhere. I think it's going soon.
Well, even if you say like, oh, I think it's found its footing. This is more so less of, in my opinion, it's less of like finding its footing and like just trying to find a justification for existing at this point. Like they're doing anything and everything to be like, all right, this wasn't a waste of time to have this as a manga. Like there was an idea here, guys. Like we tried something, and I don't know. It could have been better maybe if like these video game creators had been like mentors in the first place or something, but it just did not have the structure from the get-go in anything that it was doing. I hope that the creator comes back and blows us away with something in the future, but this is one of those things where I think they just came in half-baked, and it stayed half-baked throughout its run.
Again, I still like it, I think, just because it's something I'm involved with. There's already like this emotional attachment to it. For most people, I can see why they dislike it. I just don't think it's worse than what I think is the next one. Yeah. Then number 10.
Ooh, jeez.
Dear Anemone. It got 37 positive votes, 195 negative votes, with a total of 158 negative. It was number 10 on the voters. It was number 10 on Axel's. It was number 10 on Trenton's, but it was number 12 on my list. I'm the outlier. So the thing about this one, the reason why I put it below Kyoku to Necromance, first of all, I could remember why it's like this one a lot more. I feel like I really like horror manga, and I feel like this could have been something like really cool, really different from Shonen Jump, and I think it tried to do that, but it failed at everything. Like, I feel like the mixture of this death game with battle shonen with horror, just body horror, just didn't mesh really well. The characters were bad. I feel like there were a lot of characters that were in the spot, and I forgot about them because not only were they really boring, they didn't do anything like of the side cast. Like, it just, and I don't know, I got really annoyed with pretty much everything. I feel like there was such a really cool idea in here, and it failed at everything. But yeah, what's your guys' opinion?
Absolutely. Like it's the like concept is there. I do think like a battle like royale horror manga with hybrid plant, human, animals, like just on this island sounds like such a good idea. And I don't know how it was fumbled like this hard. Um, but yeah, like you said, none of the characters. I Gaku is the main character, but like it doesn't matter because none of them did anything from memory. They all kind of look quite samey as well, which is like the one, I guess, drawback from the best point of this manga, which is the artwork. It just doesn't capitalize on anything it kind of set out at all, which is, I guess, maybe that's why it's lowest for you because it's like the potential for something really good is here, and for a horror manga in Jump as well, which I was really excited about going in, but it was just never capitalized on. It just fell apart extremely quickly.
Yeah, it was definitely the biggest disappointment. I think even maybe I think the first chapter was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And then once you get into the second, it's just no.
I do like the whole rabbit arc at the end just because of how weird it was. I think there was some really good art there, and it was just a bit of a surprise because I was expecting like more downhill trajectory, but instead we got, hey, we're going to kind of jump to the future and like throw you off your game if you're a weekly reader, and give you this weird or like surrealist like rabbit mansion arc. I was like, okay, this is kind of cool.
That was definitely the strongest point, other than the first chapter. I would agree. We already threw it around, but like, while Kyokuto Necromance was Temu Shaman King or JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Dear Enemy was Temu Terraformars, because it played from the exact same playbook of these humans fighting against mutated creatures and then becoming like mutated creatures themselves. The Terraformars did it way better than Dear Enemy did, and that was at least what drew me in first. Was I was just like, oh, I can kind of fill the Terraformars like hole in my heart right now with Dear Enemy, maybe. And like the first chapter, I was just like, oh, maybe. But then, like we said, it just fell apart after that. The only competent character on the human side was the one female character that was either a wolf or a honey
Oh
badger,
yeah.
one of the two. And like her fight lasted all of like 5 seconds and she was done. But no, instead we focus on the guy whose head got cut off and now he's a chameleon, and this one girl who's super nervous but I think had jellyfish powers that we didn't even get to see. So I don't know, like with a lot of these series that we deemed as being awful, I think there was really bad editorial decisions in terms of creating these characters. I feel like there's not enough that was done to lead these creators to make their characters interesting enough. Because I mean, that's the thing. Like the plot is important. Don't get me wrong, but having characters that you are attached to is way more important right now. And like with all of the series that we've discussed up to this point, they've had really weak main characters that like you really can't like attach yourself to. And maybe the series would have been saved had they had more interesting characters, because again, the art was there. Like the art is the strongest point in this series. The horror is great. This is such a step up from when they did the one-shot Black Milk a couple years earlier. Self plug-in for me, since I just read that. But it's I don't know. I feel like there's this lack of focus on the editorial side of things to give these people strong characters for their series, whether that's intentional or not. Because I mean, you know, Shonen Jump has to cycle through series. Like they have to constantly bring in new stuff and axe old stuff. So, but
You think that it's a conspiracy theory that Shonen Jump is putting bad manga just so they can cancel
well,
it?
not necessarily that they're putting in bad manga. I mean, like obviously they have to cycle through people, give them a shot. Like clearly they still saw something in them that could have potentially developed over time. I get like the fact that we're talking about 12 series that started in Shonen Jump last year when there were hundreds of new manga that came out in 2024. So it's a big deal that out of all of these hundreds, thousands of people, whatever, that like submitted, those were the 12 series that actually got released. So there was something that they saw in them, but who knows what kind of help or direction that they were actually given once they were in the magazine itself. That was a big ramble, but
to add on to that
it could have been better, but it really did suck.
Yeah,
it really did.
I think that's the overall opinion.
Do you think a part of that is because maybe Shonen Jump doesn't have much experience with like horror manga? Because there really hasn't been like too many that I can think of. So
I mean,
there would be no
it's hard
to really.
It's hard to say that considering, I mean, because genres can be kind of loose fitting. I mean, like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is a horror series.
Yeah.
Technically. Yes,
Phantom Blood.
I'm aware. Well, not even just blood, but I mean the fact that like they're dealing with monsters and vampires and
Phantom
stuff
Blood,
like that.
The first arc.
Right. So, but that's what I'm saying though, is that like there's that loose kind of setting with it. Jujutsu Kaisen, I would say, leans into the horror aspect a bit.
Chainsaw Man.
Well, Death Note is another one that would be on the horror side of things. So it's not common by any means, which I think is all the more I Promise Neverland would also be another one that's horror. So there are ones like
loosely
like they come and go. Sorry, keep cutting you off.
No, but you're right. There's many, but I feel like all of them. They're kind of like loosely horror, right? I struggle to think of one that is legitimately like an actual horror manga in the style of what I think the Remedy was trying to be, with the exception of Enigma, which is a manga from
2010.
Maybe. I remember I was reading it weekly. It's been a while, but that was the only other one I feel like it feels like almost like a pure horror. But on the other hand, I also don't know if the Remedy wanted to be fully horror, because it definitely tried to have like battle shonen elements really early on as well.
And some of the like you made me remember the like whole honey badger wolf chapter, whatever. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think that might have been my favorite part of the manga. Like that fight was really cool. There is a structure there they could have followed to do like hybrid versus hybrid fights, include animal facts to put some information.
Like Terror from Mars.
Yeah, or Killing Bites would be my choice. And those series like are successful, but it just didn't work here.
Yeah. Well, moving to number 9, I feel like from here on, all the series I would consider to be decent.
Yeah.
On number 9 we have Psych House, 63 positive votes, 87 negative votes, total of negative 24. It was number 7 on the voters list. It was number 9 on Axel's, number 8 on Trenton's, and number 10 on my list. I ranked it low, but I think I enjoyed most manga this year a bit. So Dear Namine and Kyokuro were the two that I didn't like. This one was fun. I think it was enjoyable. The characters were it felt almost like Ruri Dragon in a way, in the sense, not really in the theme, but in the sense where it was a gag comedy that wasn't really as loud as you're normally used to with Roboko and Shoujo and other gag manga. It felt a little bit more chill. I really enjoyed the characters, the cast of Psych House. Um, really the only thing where it ranks so low is because, well, one, it's one of the axed manga, so it didn't last very long. It didn't have much time to really explore everything that I'd like to explore, and I feel like there's a lot other manga, gag manga that I enjoyed more, but it was fine. I like that.
It was a definition of a cozy manga.
Yeah.
Like it felt pleasant to read, which is both a good and a bad thing. Like if you're somebody that likes slice of life, it was good in that regard. We got to see their everyday life. I liked the powers of the main two characters. I thought it was really interesting. You don't necessarily see a character that can make things big or small like that. So I thought that was a really unique power for the main character to have. But I think, well, there were two problems. One that they couldn't help, and one that they were at fault for. So the big controversy with Psych House was the shoplifting issue in the first chapter. The people in Japan had a very adverse reaction to the fact that the female lead was shoplifting. Which is really unfortunate. Like everybody in the West is just like, okay, like she was doing something bad, but she repented. And everybody in Japan was just like, nope, bad. We're done. We're done with this manga. And I thought that was really it sucked. Like it's one of those things where like Japan has very different opinions on what is good and bad in their society, and that's a whole different thing that I'm not going to get into. But the other thing that Psych House did have control over is that, at least for me, the other side characters weren't as strong as the two main characters. And so because of that, it wasn't as strong of a cast as it could have been. But overall, like, again, I enjoyed it for what it was. But like there were the Japan controversy, I think, is really what threw it off its game from the get-go, and there was just no recovering from there.
Yeah, it reminded me of Time Paradox Ghost Rider, but even weirder because I get like that Ghost Rider was at least, well, it was indeed plagiarizing, and she was indeed shoplifting, but she stops like chapter 1 and we were told that it's bad. I don't know why people got like that reverse reaction to it, but it's one of those things where we at least here can't control, and even I think Jump just has to have a little bit more of know what their core fan base may like and be aware, not even fan base, but the culture of their own country, to be able to tell the other, well, maybe that's not a good idea to have the first chapter, especially for your main character. Maybe do something else. Maybe that could have, I'm not sure if that could have saved it per se, but it could have avoided the initial reaction to it.
I don't think I have too much to say about Psych House. Everything's been like chatted about. I think it's like a very novel manga to have in Jump. I didn't even really see it as a gag manga at all. It's kind of just slice of life to me, with just the powers being integrated, which was nice. Really chill vibes. I think the Tanuki chapter was probably one of my favorite ones, which reminds me of a Yu Yu Hakusho chapter early on, which is also about like a Tanuki and their owner like passing away. I thought that was quite cool. Really love the art. I think the art's really unique. It's quite soft. Love the covers as well for this. They're a lot of fun. I really hope we see Kobayashi again, and they aren't deterred kind of by the backlash they had. And maybe with like what we saw with Ruri, like Ruri was quite popular when it was serializing in magazine. Maybe there is like a space for a kind of cozy slice of life manga, which I'd love to see, but I don't know if this was it.
Number 8. I have this in, yeah, 8. Is Yokai Buster Murakami. So this was the hot take of our lists. Let's go to it. 35 positive votes, 252 negative votes, total of negative 217. 11. It was ranked 11 on voters. But it ranked 7 on Axel's, it ranked number 3 on Trenton's, and it ranked number 8 on my list. Do you wanna go first, Trenton?
Sure. I think first off, I was not a fan of Protect Me Sugamaru. I didn't think it was very good. So when Daiki Ihara came back with this, I was very pleasantly surprised. I think the artwork's like leveled up a ton. The characters are just kind of more cute, they're a bit more refined, and then to contrast with that, it has all of these kind of more detailed, slightly disgusting like yokai, which I'm gonna pull out a historical jump manga here. From the 90s, there was a manga called Manyuki Babato Aware, which did a similar thing with a cute character dealing with yokais kind of comedically. That was by Manga Taro, which is the guy who did Shinyuki. So his like characters are really disgusting and stuff. But instead, in this, you have the more like pun-based obliteration of the yokai, which I found like a lot of fun every week. Just seeing Murakami verbally like drill into all of these yokai, and then you had a lot of referential humor and fourth wall breaking humor, which I thought was a lot of fun as well. And I thought the characters like were just fun. Murakami, Kyuin, I remember them like quite clearly. The side yokai they added as well were all a lot of fun, and they made a good kind of cast together. I was really surprised like how far this went up on my list as well, because it's like number 3 out of 12. Like, okay, didn't expect it to get that high, but upon like retrospect, like yeah, I do really like this one.
I'm someone who really enjoyed Shugomaru, at least early on. And actually, at the beginning, I was the opposite of you. I read Murakami and I wasn't as big of a fan. But I feel like the repetitiveness of the premise actually helped. Where getting it like later on, I was finding it a lot more fun and waiting to see how we would beat the other yokai. And it was, we have to understand, like, it was a short series. I think it had 16 pages or even less per chapter. It was a bit shorter than
usually around 14 or 15.
Yeah. So it was normally a lot shorter and more digestible than other manga, and it did just enough. Like, it was one of those manga where you read it for that premise to see how it would develop, how like what was gonna happen next, using that idea. And I feel like a lot of people, especially if you're binging it, probably aren't going to enjoy it. And I feel like in the West, people don't really tend to like a lot of these kind of manga like Murakami. So that explains to me number 11 overall, because I don't think definitely was the second worst manga of the year. But yeah, it wasn't the best gag manga of the year. We had a couple ones, but I think it was pretty solid.
I think it didn't help that the editors were just like, hey, here at the end of the magazine, every week. Which, in the West, we have that, well, not just the West, but like there's that general perception of if you're at the end, you are a goner. Whereas that position has gone to other gag series in Shonen Jump in the past. So it was in a conflicting kind of spot of like, oh, well, if it's at the end, it's got to be bad, right? And it didn't help that it was a gag. In the West, we don't necessarily like gag series. I like you guys, I was a fan of the humor that we had from chapter to chapter, but you have other people that are like, oh, well, it's the same kind of joke every single time. It gets repetitive. So that is both a pro and a con. I really enjoyed the fact that Murakami literally was ripping apart yokai designs. He's just like, who designed you? Like, what? This makes no sense. Like, why is this your weakness? Like, that aspect was hilarious. That he literally was just breaking down like the historical and cultural significances of these various yokai. I thought that was brilliant writing. Um, Obviously, my favorite character was the dragon, who totally wasn't a dolphin at all. I, he was the best. He was the best side character, period. Obviously, I'm biased. Obviously, I've got Common Dolphin manga in my bookshelf. I have a giant painting of dolphins on the side of my wall that never gets shown off here. But there was a lot of really good stuff in Murakami. It's really unfortunate that it joined the U19 club. It was a significant step up from Shigemaru, which I also just did not like Shigemaru. There was
I
so
know.
much that was just blatantly wrong with that manga, but I digress.
That was a section you
Right,
can find in other videos, in another video from ours, wherever that
yeah.
UI was.
But I do hope that he gets to come back. Honestly, I hope that he comes back in Jump Plus instead of Shonen Jump proper, just so at that point maybe he can just continue to keep publishing. Because I think every time he comes back to Shonen Jump, it's not gonna work. They don't have space for another gag series to run right now. They really don't.
I can see him coming back because I feel like he's a mangaka that the editors like. Um,
I think there's some like nepotism. Well, there was the like nepotism allegations. I think he's like the cousin or son of someone high up in Shueisha or something. At least by rumors.
Okay, because he does a One Piece spin-off,
Yeah.
which I don't think he works on very often, but he does, which is
He
not many
paused
people.
it.
Yeah,
He paused it to do Murakami, if I remember right.
and he's been on Jump 2 times, very back to back, and this time he got like, you're in the back of the magazine, which for us, like in the West, oh, that's a bad position, but that's not like, to give someone that responsibility of being like, you're the bookend. That actually means that they trust him somewhat. So I can see that him coming back, either Shonen Jump Plus or the main magazine. We'll see. Number 7. This is the hot take of the voters list. It's Shinobi Undercover. 177 positive votes, 51 negative votes, total of 126 positive. It was number 3 in the voters list. It was number 6 on Axel's, number 9 on Trenton's, and number 6 on mine. Number 3 on the voters list. Because the first two, I think we can all like figure out which of them they
Yep.
are. But
We know.
Yeah, I was kind of curious about what's going to be number 3. I was not expecting Shinobi Undercover.
I can see it.
Yeah.
I can see it. Just know there are a few factors. Like in the West, we like to value action series. Like, period. Like, we value action series. So that's one factor. I think the other big factor on top of that is recency bias. It's currently running in the magazine. A lot of the stuff that came out this year already ended. So, as a result, because other things are done and this is ongoing, higher up in the ratings. So, I think that combination of the two is the main reason why it ended up as number 3. Like, again, number 1 and number 2 are pretty obvious for what people are going to vote for. and based on this being number 3, I have a feeling I know what number 4 is as a result. I could be wrong, but like this doesn't surprise me that this came in 3rd.
I'll say this. It feels very much like Sakamoto Days and Kill Blue, like mixed together, which is a bad thing because Kill Blue is already Sakamoto Days in a way. But I also think like this one was better than Kill Blue. I'm someone who's not that big of a fan. I'm not caught up with Kill Blue. I'm like 30 chapters behind right now, but I'm not that big of a fan of Kill Blue. I think Shinobi Undercover, for what it did so far, I enjoyed more of the execution, more of the characters, more of the action, more of the art style. Like, I think pretty much everything that it did slightly better than Kill Blue. However, it is still Kill Blue 2, which is Sakamoto Days 3 in the magazine. I don't know. It's good, but I just don't feel like it makes sense to be there in the rest of the roster, if that makes sense.
Like it's oversaturating kind of what we have already.
Exactly.
I kind of agree with you. It's quite low down with me, but by no means do I like hate it. I think it's actually really solid. I think this the duo, Candy Flurry duo, have done like much better here. The artwork's really good, especially some of the action scenes. I think it mixing in the socially awkward main character is a very current thing, which will only help its popularity. But I don't like super love it or anything. I don't connect to it like a ton. I just think it's a solid manga, but generally I prefer to put the ones I think are interesting or try something new a bit higher.
I agree with everything that's been said so far. Like I didn't even think of calling it Sakamoto 3. Like, because the thing is, I equate this more to Sakamoto than I do Kill Blue, only because the action is very similarly drawn in Shinobi Undercover to Sakamoto Days than Kill Blue is. Like you got a lot of the speed lines, you got a lot of the sudden action poses, scene destruction, similar in Sakamoto Days in Shinobi Undercover. So that's where I'm getting it. The thing is, for me, being up to date on it, it's starting to get repetitive, which is not good. The thing is, like, our main character has the same move over and over and over again. It's just like, oh, he's here, and then all of a sudden he's preparing to kick, and then he kicks the guy. And it happens again and again and again and again. And it's drawn really well. But it's starting to lose that appeal. Like, we need something different. And it doesn't help that the other ninja characters on the good guy side are honestly kind of bland. Like the tsundere girl, she's fine. The guy, like, who apparently is just emotionless on the outside, but like is like really jazzed about everything on the inside, like, they're not doing a whole lot. And the fact that they are also like physical brawler type characters instead of having a weapon or a style, it's not doing anything to help their cases. So I don't necessarily see this going the distance if they can't do anything to change their fighting style and make it more interesting. At this point in time, the best fight of the series was the Honey Buzzard fight, the guy that didn't really care about things and he had the strings, because it was actually doing something. He had an interesting fighting style. Granted, obviously we have, Kyoichiro from Yozakura family, who is also a string user.
That's ending.
And it is. But like, this guy also got defeated already. But despite that mall fight was the most interesting one that we've had so far in the series. They need to do more things like that if they want to keep going. But they also need to improve upon the characters, because the character writing is the weakest part of the series so far. That's why it's midway point for me. Like, it's doing enough in certain areas, but it's not doing enough to be a long-running Shonen Jump series. At least, not from what I'm seeing so far.
Yeah, I think it. We've been getting a little bit more development of the characters, of the side cast. So I'm hoping we get more as time goes on. I remember there was, it's on a side note, but when you're talking about like the fights being more like Sakamoto, I think it was a mall fight, but I'm not sure. I remember there was a fight that ends exactly like one like Sakamoto, like almost the same panel, like with him beating in the head. There were a couple of like moments or panels that I felt like was straight up ripping off Sakamoto, but I don't know.
So what you're saying is that Shinobi is actually Roboco 2, because Roboco rips off the other manga in Shonen Jump.
Maybe it's written by Roboco.
I don't know. I've seen her drawings. This doesn't. She's leveled up, maybe.
Yeah.
She's only responsible for the story, not the art.
Yeah.
Maybe with them being so similar, like Sakamoto and Shinobi, it is the kind of collective influence of like Western action films, because so many mangaka now will point to stuff like John Wick and be like, "Oh yeah, I'm inspired by that." You see it with Hokuzono. I'm pretty sure Sakamoto, like the author, will point at that or some other movies, and we're getting maybe more cinematic action like that. Maybe the Hitman and Ninja ideas are also like coming from the same place. They're leading to a similar fighting style or idea where we have to fight in a civilian area without them noticing. Because I guess all of them are doing that to an extent as well, which is leading to similar like panels and art generally.
Yeah. The thing is, I absolutely love Sakamoto. I think it's one of my favorite Shonen Jump series of all time, and part of it is because of the way the fights are done, because it was so novel at the time, like when it started. But reading a third series of that, in the same magazine at the same time,
It's the Exorcist thing all over again, where it's just like, all right, how many Exorcist series do we have? All right, how many Assassin series do we have at the same time? Like,
we don't need
when you have 3 of each.
But they're popular, and that's why it's so high on the readers list as well.
And yeah, Japan loves their trends. If Shonen Jump allowed for isekai series or whatever in their magazine, then we would have the outcast from a hero party that is actually super overpowered despite having a very unique skill, or we would have reincarnated as an otome game villainous, because those are like the ones that just keep getting hammered into people. Like, Japan loves their trends, and so does Shonen Jump.
I'm not complaining, but I don't understand why we don't have isekai in Shonen Jump. Yeah, not complaining at all.
No, that's
but I don't get why.
We have Exorcists instead, I guess, or Assassins now, maybe.
The closest we got was Mama Yuyu, which was really fun. We have what I think is another weird take from the voters list. We got Astro Real, which got 130 positive votes, 179 negative votes, with a total of negative 49, which was, I wasn't expecting it to have negative points. Was number 8 on voters list, was number 5 on Axel's, number 7 on Trenton's, and number 4 on mine. This was the manga that I was catching up this week, and I like it in the sense it's very much a classic shonen with that writing of Tokyo Revengers. You can tell it's written by the same guy. There's a lot of like common classic shonen action like tropes and fights and characters and the way they speak, like we want to save everyone and we're gonna fight for what's right, and but he writes it in a way where I enjoy it. There's like this comfortable, almost nostalgia feeling while reading Astro Royale, and it doesn't come from nostalgia from Tokyo Revengers, because I also read Tokyo Revengers last year, all of it. I think the hate for Astro Royale comes from the hate from Tokyo Revengers, from people, because it's a really hated manga. But again, as someone who's read it last year, it's a really hated manga for the last like fourth of the manga. The other 3/4 are really good. I feel like Astro Royale has that same level of that early writing in Tokyo Revengers, or maybe not at the same level, but I think it's good. Like, do not judge me.
I mean, I like it too. I'm just like,
judge me. I can see Trenton judge me, but I can see
judge everybody. Let Trenton judge. He doesn't have facial expressions like I do to judge Crash.
I definitely like feel you with the kind of more old school shonen battle stuff. It feels like that from time to time, which I really like. I'm not sure I would put it quite up there with like early Tokyo Revengers, because there was a bit more intrigue and mystery with the time travel stuff, where the kind of Daybreak or whole shenanigan thing, I want more of it. I feel like I'm not getting enough. That is the big thing with Astro Royale so far, is it gives you like its general plot is nice. The battles are fun. I like that, but it's like underbelly. Like the scenes you get with the Daybreak Corps, with Guido, the lackey who you get that little flashback for, where Kui just snaps suddenly. It's like, okay, what is going on here? Sometimes like you get snaps of like something really cool. The oil rig fight, when you get that Lovecraftian transformation as well. It's like, I feel like there's something going on with Tokyo Revengers. Maybe that it is poor writing and like these elements just aren't coming across enough, or maybe later on we're going to get some kind of full scale transformation of the series where we get just more and more of this stuff, and it's only drip feeding us for now. So I'm in a weird place with it at the moment. I feel like I like it. I want it to do more. It doesn't help that the current arc we're in, I feel like it's rushing a bit. Maybe it's rushing to something cool. Maybe they're just rushing through because it is a fairly fast-paced manga. So it's a tumultuous ground for me, so that's why it's not higher. If you asked me like earlier on in the year, this would probably be like top 3.
I don't know that it would have gotten the top 3 for me. Because I agree with the vast majority of what you just said. The thing is, like, a lot of these arcs that we've had, there's that like moment where there is that flash of brilliance that is like the shining peak of that arc. But there's so much leading up to it or after the fact that just kind of doesn't really hit as much. I really, really wish that we leaned more into the sci-fi side of things, because that was the coolest part of the manga so far. The Lovecraftian space horror transformation, not to mention just the Astros evolving the way that they did, was super cool. Like it does genuinely make you wonder though, like, all right, how did we get to this point where there are Yakuza members that are suddenly dealing with space fragments that give people space powers? But it's shonen, like that stuff happens. But then again, like there's a curse with sci-fi series and shonen. They don't work out well. I mean, like, and I wonder if they're holding him back from like fully leaning into it. I genuinely feel like in general they were making Wakui hold back from the get-go with this, because I do think that one of the weakest points of this manga is the main character's design, not necessarily the character himself. I like his character. I don't like the head part haircut thing. I don't know what decision that came from. But there are flashes of brilliance in this series. it holds itself back time and time again, and that is what disappoints me because Ken Wakui has really great character writing abilities when he wants to do so. He has really great art capabilities when he wants to do so. Mainly when he's doing like covers and fashion work, but not when it comes to the proportion of people's necks, because dear God, these people are like living Pez dispensers with how long their necks are. But I just wish there was more, and I unfortunately feel like we're just gonna keep on speeding through things at this point, just because the sales are constantly on the decline. Astro Royale's numbers, like they peaked at like 30 something thousand, I want to say, and they just have never managed to repeat that. So it could very well be a series that ends this year if the nepotism from Shonen Jump just doesn't keep it in. Just because they did poach Ken Wakui from Kodansha. He's been printing in Kodansha for a while now, and they brought him over after Tokyo Revengers, ended. So it would leave a bad impression on Shonen Jump if they ended his series too early because of that. Like, what does that say about Shonen Jump editorial if they're poaching people just to end them before they've even run a year in the magazine? So, as you can tell, I have very mixed emotions about Astro Royale and the state of things. Just, it hurts to be a Tokyo Revengers fan.
It does. And I was good at not being, because everyone hates it. I have struggled with.
As a side tangent, Tokyo Revengers is a good manga. The problem is it takes everything that the manga did and it just ruins it in the last 5 chapters. Because they just ramshackle put everything together at the end. It's just like, hey, remember all of the character struggles that we had up to here that defined these characters? What if we completely ignored that and said, oh, hey, everything worked out in the span of 2 chapters? Like, I have no problem with the fact that they went back to redo things at the end. I have a problem with the fact that it lasted 2 chapters and they didn't do anything to show, oh, hey, like, we made up for all these things that we did previously. Like, that is my problem with the end of Tokyo Revengers. Like, I don't have a problem with the ending. I have a problem with how we got there.
That's fair.
But that's a separate thing.
I just don't like. I just feel like the last possibly 60-70 chapters shouldn't exist. Because I feel like the manga has a really
you and everybody else.
Yeah. But the manga before that is really great.
It really is.
Solid.
I agree.
Moving on to what I think are the best. Well, what everyone apparently thinks are the best 5. Number 5, we got Sidcraft Love is a Mystery. It got 102 positive votes, 61 negative votes, total 41. Overall, it was number 5 on the voters. It was number 8 on Axel's, number 5 on Trenton's. It was number 3 on mine, and it was
3.
Before you say anything,
3.
I just need you to understand. Let me explain why I didn't put it on number 1. The top three were all of them at number 1 at one point, including Sidcraft. I just felt like it hasn't done a lot so far. That is very much the only reason why it wasn't number 1. Now, why would it be number 1? Because I am big fan of We Never Learn, and this is more of it. I really love, I forgot his name, but I am a fanboy of the author.
Tatsui?
Tatsui, exactly. I really like his comedy writing. I think it's really funny. all of the chapters are really funny, really hilarious. The characters are really good. I think pretty much all of these characters. It tends to fumble. I think we never learned he fumbled the math girl. And in here, so far, I think the detective girls, Flamberry, I think her names.
Souffle Flamberry.
The names should have been better as well, but it is what it is. I think that character needs a bit more development, especially if she's supposed to be the promise girl, which we never talked about it after the first chapter. But there was a promise there. It was the Lavina plot. He gave us the Lavina plot. That character needs to be a little more interesting. But I think the rest of the cast so far was pretty fun. He's doing what he did in We Never Learned, with the comedy style of all these misunderstandings, and but in a non-ecchi way, in a non-ecchi harem way. Well, it's still kind of harem. It's still kind of harem.
There's a lot of butt shots, dude.
I mean,
There's a lot of butt shots.
I mean, have you seen We Never Learn? It's
Yes, I finished We Never Learn. I enjoy We Never Learn. There's a lot of butt shots in this series.
Okay, but it's not like I've read We Never Learn and I've read the Nisekoi spin-off, and his nudity has been decreasing by series. That's all I can say. But it's I don't. I like the detective part. What I will say, and one of the reasons why I don't think this is really number one, is we need actual mysteries that we can solve. Because yes, the author does give us mysteries, and they're fun that the solutions are there in the page. I think it's good at whenever he makes a connection, I go back to it like, motherfucker. All the hints are there. But I don't need the hints, because more often than not, whenever there's a mystery, I know who the criminal is. There's always only one person that can be the bad guy, so I don't need the hints. I think he needs to read more Detective Conan for a bit and then come back. But everything else, it's a series I'm having more fun out of all of the ones this year.
This one for me, I like Sidcraft could be number one. I really like We Never Learn. I like Tetsui's like formula. I think it's good here. I've also like really gotten into mystery fiction in the last like few years, and I'm a bit of a fiend for reading Agatha Christie whodunits. So my standards have gone up quite a bit, and I completely agree with you, Crash. You're given these mysteries and they give you the clues, and that's really, really nice. It's fun to go back and just go through them. But what it turns it into more of a howdunit than a whodunit, because there just isn't enough build up in these mysteries, because he's also focusing on establishing a romantic comedy here. So what I need is a long form mystery. I need a long arc. I need them all like pushed into a mansion for 10 chapters. I really, really need that. Just have so much like out of that. Because right now the individual chapters are like fun. I feel good like every week after I read them. You get a tiny bit of mystery. You get some romance. But I don't know. I feel like the heights this can reach, it's far from them currently. And I really want it to get better. Because this could be like a top 10 like manga for me from Jump potentially. I guess other things I think the characters are like really strong so far, even though they're slightly kind of quite similar to like We Never Learn's cast. I do love their dynamics within the world they're in. So you have the detective rival, you have the secretary, I guess, the assistant character who's secretly a girl, which is fun, and who is also secretly like the writer, Sid Myers. I think that's very fun as well. And then you have the cat burglar, Chat Noir, who I think is my favorite, and I just love the dynamic of Sid being oblivious. With maybe my favorite thing about the manga is how it's toying with Detective Vision's meta like rules and making fun of them. One of my favorite parts is just the idea that detectives are these cursed individuals who just attract criminals and like horrible people around them. I found it so funny when Sid explains like my first love interest was involved in some like shady scheme or something. My best friend was a drug dealer. My like teacher was a murderer or something like that. I find all of that like very funny. Tatsui's like wit I find particularly like strong so far. I just need more mystery elements because it is setting itself up not just as a rom-com but a mystery as well.
So, just being the Debbie Downer of the group, like I I had to put it as low as I did just because one, we haven't gotten a whole lot from this series so far. So like putting it above other ones just did not feel right to me. But as a We Never Learn fan, I think that's the biggest reason why I am disappointed so far. Just because, at least in terms of the love interests, only Elio and Chat Noir are doing anything for me so far, where there is actual like depth to their character, or like making them more than one note. Whereas Detective Flamberry, we know she's the childhood love interest, but we're only really seeing one facet of her character where she's just like, I'm go-getter detective girl, and like, darn you, Detective Sid Craft, for being better than me at the things that I do. And there hasn't necessarily been a redeeming quality to her so far. Whereas at least with We Never Learn, like, I at least felt more drawn to the characters right away, at least in my opinion. Um, and I guess another frustration too is that I was happy to find out that they were all adults from the get-go in Sidcraft, because we don't get that a lot. So often we just get high schoolers, or God forbid, middle schoolers. In Sidcraft, they're all adults from the get-go. Like, there's opportunities to be more adult with certain things and whatnot. And we get that, and I've just been disappointed with the whole mystery thing. I'm gonna make this comparison, and people are gonna hate me if they make this comparison or not, but I feel like Sidcraft is treating mysteries the way Blue Box treats sports in their respective series, where sometimes they feel more like an afterthought and a vehicle rather than actually using them more efficiently. Granted, Blue Box does it better now, especially because we're in a period where, again, the sports matter. But like, there is so often where it's just like, oh, we're doing sports, but relationship. And in Sidcraft, it's just like, oh, we're doing mysteries, but rom-com. And to Crash's point, it's a lot of like how done it rather than who done it, which is fine. Like, I like going back and actually reading, like, and like spotting the things that we were supposed to be like figuring out for ourselves. And it's like, oh yeah, that was drawn like this. This wasn't something just randomly thought up later and just like, oh well, I didn't see that at all. But the mysteries are so basic. There's not enough that's interesting to them. And Shonen Jump has had so many other more interesting mystery series up to this point that it's not hitting for me. I can't believe I'm saying this. I Tell C was a better mystery series in my opinion than Sidcraft. Granted, it was two different styles, like it literally genre shifted halfway through, but I enjoyed the mystery aspect of I Tell C more than I enjoyed the mystery aspect of Sidcraft so far. And whether that's a hot take or not, whatever, but I want to I expect more, and that's why I'm as harsh as I am with my criticisms. I unfortunately think that we're just not going to get a whole lot more out of this, because unless we get some shonen nepotism in there, I do think that Sidcraft is ending with the next round of axes, just because there's not enough room in the magazine otherwise. Like,
mean,
I think it's a goner.
I don't know. I don't actually am aware of how the rankings and the first volume hasn't been out, right? So we don't know how.
No, it literally just started ranking in the magazine, and it was like in the 8th spot for like this week coming up.
Yeah, I haven't seen what was it on the readers list again? Because I don't see too many people actually talking about it.
It was number 5.
Okay, that's fairly high.
Yeah, and it had a
Wait.
decent number of votes because there's been years where the middle ones are the middle ones because they don't have
As many
a
votes.
lot of votes exactly. This year I feel like, especially because we got a bigger number of votes as well. I think the one that was voted last overall was Psych House. I should have made a list of how many people voted for each, but I didn't. So, but you got a total of 163 votes. So at least that many people read it.
Okay. Yeah, this is one I don't hear much people talking about, so I'm not too like aware of how it might pan out. But I'd like if it stays and innovated, but I could also see it just like not living up to We Never Learn, and so it just ends up getting cut fairly like early in its run.
I just don't think it's going to get afforded that. Not there's too many series in the magazine right now that are selling at least 10,000 copies with their first volume. Like, that's good compared to the usual Axe Bait series that we normally get. So like,
Yeah.
where there's a lot of mid, which is both good and bad, but like a lot of people are going to be disappointed that like a series that's like somewhat good is going to get axed because there's too many series in Shonen Jump that are also somewhat good.
That's life we're used to, isn't it? Well, moving on to the top 4, we got Super Psychic Policeman Shoujo. 133 positive votes, 101 negative votes, total of 32 positive. It was number 6 on the voters, it was number 2 on Axel's and Trenton's, and it was number 7 on my list.
Boo crash.
Okay.
Boo.
I'll try to explain. So I like shoujo. Like I said, I enjoyed somewhat most of the series that we read this year, that were released this year. The thing that I like most about shoujo isn't shoujo, is kochikame. If that makes sense. I used to
The
watch
chapter we didn't even get translated in English.
no, what I mean is, I used to watch Kochikame when I was a kid. It aired on television, and shoujo does remind me a lot of that. Obviously, it's a Shonen Jump gag manga with police officers, and there's obviously a lot of things that are meant to be similar to Kochikame. It almost is Kochikame 2. And in other ways, it also has a very different style of humor and art style and everything. But I don't know. I like the characters. I think it has memorable characters with solid personalities. But I'm not invested in non-bearer Ippongi. She is the best, and if you don't agree, I don't care.
She's not the best.
She's
There's
the
one
best.
character that is superior to Ippongi. Hands down. No question.
Which one?
And that is Mr. Guy.
Miss.
Mr. Guy is single-handedly the best character in JoJo. No debate.
I'll agree to disagree. But yeah, I like the characters. I think Shoujo is doing a good job. I just don't feel invested in it, especially in the character of Shoujo himself. I don't know. I don't connect with him a lot. So I think that it's a solid manga. I can see why a lot of people like it. I can see why it's ranked so high, especially in you guys' lists. Now it actually is a success because it's a pretty solid gag manga. I laugh a lot of times. It's fun to read. I just think there's a lot of other gag manga that I enjoyed throughout Shonen Jump's run, a lot more than Shoujo. So that's why it kind of ranked number 7.
I'm quite surprised like you don't like Chojo. He's definitely the draw for me. His brand of like character and comedy is so fun. He's just a bit of a bastard. I love how he just bullies children. It's so funny to me. And then he bounces off the other characters so well with that because they're like, "Whoa, Chojo, you're kind of fucked up for that," and he doesn't care. And like I love how Axel brought up Mr. Guy. Like you remember the secondary cast because they're so memorable. They're so much fun. I don't know if I know everyone off by name, but like I remember the creepy kid. There's the schoolgirl they hang out with who's pretty cool. There's the section chief, I think, or just the kind of higher up one who's obsessed with Chojo and his partner who are quite funny. And then you also have the main duo who are really strong together. I do feel like it does just generally appeal to me. Art style wise, I love Shonuma's artwork. I think his characters are so expressive, especially with facial expressions, which is very important for gag manga. But they're also very angular. The shape language Shonuma uses just makes the characters feel very unique and stand out. Like no one really looks the same, which I really like. And then in its references, it feels cherry picked for me. You have like Yu-Gi-Oh, Gunpla and Gundam references, fighting games, Sentai. It's very nerdy. That will probably help a lot of, I guess, nerdy Japanese people or maybe older people to like it as well. There's a kind of focus, I guess, on a lot of hobby stuff. And couple that with the Kochikame like connection, which I'm really glad you mentioned, Crash. It has this weird like legacy to it already where it's almost carrying the torch of Kochikame. It's going to get older Jump fans interested because they're going to be like, oh, that sounds a bit like Kochikame. And I don't know, there's something about it being a small like policeman procedural gag manga. Like the fact that this exists in Jump to me is very special. Because we had that for 40 years in the magazine, and it just existing, I like that. I just like that it exists, but it's also funny. It makes me laugh. I enjoy it, so that's why it's like really, really high up for me.
I love Shoujo so much as a series. Like compared to some of the other gag series, I consistently get laughs out of Shoujo from week to week. And I genuinely do believe that Shoujo has some of the best character writing of all the new series that we got from last year. Because yes, you have a lot of characters that like they are their archetype. Like they stick to that lane. They don't necessarily deviate, but they can still be built upon them to like show that there's more interesting aspects to their characters. To Trenton's point, can I name all of the side characters? No, but I can visualize almost every side character in the Shoujo series because of how memorable that they are. Shoujo also he's the lovable bastard character, like Trenton mentioned as well. So love him or hate him, he's going to be the same character every single chapter for the most part. Like he'll have those certain interests that all of a sudden just make his character veer off in a certain direction for a chapter that week, but it's hilarious. And you can have really out there chapters. Like there is a like every chapter they make fun of how Ippongi is a gorilla, and there's an actual chapter where a gorilla gets loose from the zoo and they think that the gorilla is a Pongi, and they have like an Apongi off, or they're like, all right, which one is the real Pongi? It's so much fun on a consistent basis, and there are certain chapters where they will bleed into the next one, and it does it really well. My only concern is that, again, just based on how full the magazine is already, and the fact that Roboco is there, that Chojo will play second fiddle and will take the fall before Roboco does. Just because Roboco is so ingrained into the magazine already. So I do fear that it'll go the way of like Mitama Security, where it lasts up to a year and then has to get cut just because there's no more room. But even if it does get axed in the near future, that doesn't change the fact that I thoroughly enjoyed Chojo this last year, and it just was so much fun from week to week. It was that good. Loved it.
I love hearing you guys talk about it. It makes me feel bad for enjoying it as much. Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
think it's
feel bad.
It's a good
I'm,
manga.
I'm like smiling when you mentioned the gorilla chapter. Like, oh, it's so funny. Another one I really liked is the one when they talk about the chief of their station, and we're not really privy to who they are, and people are like confused about who they're talking about. Just very fun structure for a chapter, and it having like all these chapters which are so different to each other really makes me think of, I guess, Roboco, but also older gag manga. I just really like this type of gag manga. It's just so fun every week to read.
Yeah,
And they keep alluding to the mystery character that works the night shift too, that they never see, but is probably a woman because they keep like showing off more and more of their shadowy figure. Like, there's so many good running gags in this series. It's so good. Like, and I feel bad that like more people don't give gag series a chance, because this one is genuinely good. And I do, because gag series love to, pay homage to Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, I think this is one of those ones that does it the best on top of it. So like, more people need to read Chojo, damn it.
Absolutely.
Number 3, we are in the top 3 right now. Ima 10. 148 positive votes, 72 negative, total of 76. It was number 4 on the voters list. It was number 4 on Axel's. It was number 4 on Trenton's. It was number 5 on my list. It's only on the top 3 because we all have like weird voting on the others. So it's somehow ranked above all the others.
It's so weird.
Yeah.
What?
It's just because.
I mean, fine, but like, what?
It's just
It's
like
not super good, but it's good enough and less polarizing.
Yeah,
That it's made it into the top 3. That's pretty interesting.
Because like Shoujo was top 4, but he had 2 number 2s. It had number 6 and has a number 7. Well, actually, now that I notice, both of them had the same overall points. But Ima 10 wins because it's over on the voters list. I enjoy Ima 10, but I enjoy Ima 10 similar to us that I enjoyed Shoujo because of Koshikame. I enjoy Ima 10 exclusively, and even more so than Shoujo, exclusively because I haven't read Nisekoi in 9 years or whatever it's been since it has ended, and I love Nisekoi so much. It is a manga that I'm deeply nostalgic for. It's a manga that it is one of the very few manga from that era, at least, that I read from chapter 1 weekly to the final chapter. There's very few manga that, especially in like 2012, that you could do that. And I love these characters. I loved Onodera, I loved Shitose, I love Raku, and they're all here. They are all in Ima 10. And it's like, yeah, it's fun. I like it. I enjoy reading it, but also at the same time, it's very much the most. It's it's too much nisekoi. It's very much out of all of these, we've talked about some of these other manga being similar to other ones. This one is the one where its influences on their sleeves the most. I think that's the how you say it. I think lately it has been able to separate itself a little bit more from nisekoi, but not by much. I'll say that.
I'll keep my thoughts kind of short and sweet on this one, just because Kimaten is good. To your point, it immediately reminded me of Nisekoi as well. I like that the male main character, he's taking out a role that's not necessarily common in a shonen series, where he is being clean. Like, that is a character trait that you'll see, like, for certain characters, but the fact that he is a house cleaner is something that is not really seen a whole lot. The 3 love interests so far are good. My favorite is actually the model with the butler fetish, but I'm sad because, let's be realistic, she's not winning. Like, with a lot of these harem series, typically speaking, they go for one of the first 2 characters. Like, that's it. Like, and
there's
my biggest criticism...
There's this tradition of the third one introduced being the best, and also the one that never wins. I feel like that happens in so many manga.
It really does. And I genuinely like her the most, which is what frustrates me. But yes, most of the time they're gonna fall in love with one of the first 2 people, and it's it's the new girl and the childhood friend. Like, that's always what it is. So that... Go ahead.
I was just say, I'm hoping another wins this time.
Fair enough. Like, so I enjoy it for what it is. I do. And that's why at least I do have it as high as I do. But shonen rom-com, gonna shonen rom-com. We're not gonna have a girl picked until the end of the manga. Like, I'm guessing that now, because that's how the vast majority of these harem series work. And it's going to be fine for what it is. But it is very standard. And I think that is reflecting even with sales as well, because Volume 2 of Hima-ten has already come out, and it's not necessarily doing better than Volume 1. So I like having more than one romance series in the magazine. I do. God forbid they turn into Weekly Shonen Magazine, where like 2/3 of the magazine is a romance series. But like, I enjoy having multiple in Shonen Jump. I do enjoy this series, but it is also a very standard series, which is good, but not great.
There is nothing really for me to say. Like, yeah, it is the kind of classic shonen rom-com from the 2010s. I find that kind of refreshing, though. I do like that. It's just very easy to digest. And then, as Axel pointed out, like the whole house cleaning angle, I really, really like. All of the chapters about cooking and cleaning are my favorites. I just find that an interesting topic. Seeing like the characters discuss that, and I also think cooking and cleaning for other people is like an extremely mundane, but also an extremely loving like act to do. It's something you can do for someone like daily, and I think it fits really well romantically, and it almost has a home ec, I guess, a vibe to it of teaching you like, hey, it's good to be clean. It's also good to make good food and stuff. I think that's cool. It's not as cookie cutter as some people make it out to be, because it does have this little angle it's looking at. But yeah, it's cool. I'm glad Genki Ono's back as well, because it's an artist I really like. Although, compared to something like Full Drive, I do feel like his art style has gotten quite like generic. But it looks nice, so I don't really mind. Also, I like Himari.
Was Full Drive, was that the ping pong manga?
Yes.
Okay, I was just like, wait a minute. That's that artist?
Yeah, which had a romance kind of subplot, which was fairly like substantial, which I liked quite a bit. So
There was a romance subplot in Full Drive?
yeah, between
I
Marin and
God,
I never
this
read
girl.
I gotta
Fashion
go
is
back to
so-
read that. Like I read like 2 or 3 chapters of Full Drive and that was it because like translations just like fell off.
Yeah, because it was a jump
Start.
start thing, but it's fully translated now. I've read it a few times. I weirdly like it a lot. So seeing him back with this is interesting because it wasn't what I expected. But hey, he's doing well enough, so I'm happy.
Kind of side tangent. It's kind of like how the artist of Ole Golazo came back to do the art for Akane Banashi. Wow, I did not realize that was the artist of Full Drive.
Yeah,
That is so interesting.
Kind of come back like recently to just do these new series. It's cool seeing them come back after so many years as
I was
well.
gonna say, how many new artists are from mangaka are from this year? Akutaku and the Anemone?
No. Okay, Hakutaku feels new. They've been in 2 Gold Future Cups.
Okay,
like years and years
yeah,
ago.
but I'm talking about.
But like in
new
terms of like
series, new
first
series,
series.
Yeah, I guess
not
for series,
one-shots.
but they're not like, I guess, too new. If that
Okay, they're
makes
not
sense.
young mangaka. I
Psych
guess.
House, definitely. I guess Hakutaku, if you want to count that. Kiyoshi, which
Yeah.
I guess we'll get to soon, and then Brun Matsui from Anemone.
Yeah, it's like
There,
4.
there isn't many.
Yeah, I don't think. I think normally we get a lot more rookie mangaka in a year.
Well, it was kind of a. I shouldn't say it was a thin year because I mean 12 is still a lot in the
It's same
grand
number.
scheme of
it's
things.
the same number.
But
If you go back, because that was what I was thinking. Like this year we had less manga, but if you go back to all of our other videos, it's always like 11 or 12. I don't think there's been more than that.
I also,
at least for as long as we've been doing them.
Yeah.
yeah, it's worth pointing out as well. We're waiting on 2 Gold Future Cup like newbies, and now in like a few days or weeks, a third. So we should be seeing more new people come into Jump soon. I hope.
Right, because from what was said, at least at the time of recording this video, the next issue of Shonen Jump is Elusive Samurai on the cover to celebrate its anniversary, while simultaneously probably ending Undead Unluck with a color page. So, and that's the tricky thing, is that we have a lot of anniversaries right now, but with 2 series that are coming to an end naturally, and I still think Hakutaku is going to get axed is in the 3rd week. I don't think that they're going to keep it unless they're literally keeping it as axe bait for the next round, but we should be getting 2 or 3 new series coming up here. And the results of the cup from the end of last year with the winner of the 6.
So you got sticks. Sorry, I don't speak well now. Okay, number 2. I think we'll all figure out which.
Yeah.
the positions of these.
What could they be? In what order?
Exactly. Ultimate Exorcist Kyoishi. It had 321 positive votes, 44 negative, so overall to 277. It was number 2 on voters. It was number 3 on Axel's, number 6 on Trenton's, and number 1 on Crash's list.
Oh.
Boo. You and your anything could be number 1 on my list. Except for the one that should be number 1.
Yeah.
But I digress.
Um,
And it's Kiyoshi.
it's fun, and I think, first of all, Ichi is number 1. I think we can announce.
Way to spoiler, Crash.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think once Ichi has the same number of chapters in Kyoichi, I might like it more.
Kiyoshi.
Kyoshi.
Kiyoshi.
Kiyoshi. I should. I'm learning Japanese. I should learn how to pronounce things.
At least know how to pronounce your number 1. Damn it.
Sorry. It's. I love the main character so much, and this is a manga where I thought could get tiring very, very early because it was doing something, kind of similar to like Mashal, which I was gonna say famously, but I don't like Mashal. I think people know that I don't really like Mashal that much. But Kyoichi was just, I just really like his character way more than Mashal. I think Mash is boring. Mash is boring. But I expected the manga to get tiring because I was assuming it was gonna do the same thing of him being really strong. But it's somehow evolving a little bit more into more of a traditional battle shonen. And I think to a lot of people that's probably where they tune off, right? Where, okay, it's another battle shonen, like all the others. But I think this one has such a good cast of characters. The guy with the demon, I'm bad with names, but his rival that both of them love each other, but also like he try to act really cool whenever they're near each other. The girls, like her mentor, his mentor, like all of these characters are really, really cool. And I think that helps the manga, the art style as well. The battles aren't the best because I feel like a lot of times they still go back to Mashals, so they aren't. I won't say they're not the best because I enjoy them. I will say they're not complex for the most part. But overall, it's just like this really solid, fun battle shonen with really good characters, and I've been enjoying them a lot. And again, I think Ichi, I'll like it more over time. I just don't think there's been enough to be number 1 for me. Go.
I put it kind of low, like in hindsight. I like Kyoshi though. I think it's really stellar. Has that kind of classical battle shonen feel to it now, which I really like. Probably my favorite aspect is the artwork. Like a lot of people, it just has this very fun quality to it, which I think you can see the One Piece influence because Usui was a assistant to Oda, especially like in the fights, which I really like. You can see the DNA in there, but the aesthetic as well of Kyoshi, it has this emo kind of punk goth thing mixed in, and I adore like how cute it is mixed in with that. The demons especially have this very fun quality to them where they look kind of spooky in a maybe Skeleton Jack sort of way. Jack Joe, Nihan's the guy you mentioned earlier, his friend, I really love him and his design. Just really, really fun. And it's doing a decent job of like building its world and building up all the characters, like you said as well. Like Yoshi's a lot of fun. Probably favorite part about him is his little list, especially the group pissing part. So funny, where he wants to do all these things with people.
Hated that. I hated the group piss.
I want to do group pissing.
God,
It's so silly. Like he's very endearing. And it's also building up like its events as well, like the Black Parade. I'm pretty excited to see like what is this going to be. Yeah, I get why a lot of people love Kyoshi. I thought maybe it would have a chance at least to take the top spot because I see a lot of people talking about it, and I can see it getting like quite popular. I think if it does manage to stay.
It actually was the most voted for the first 10-12 hours of the
Okay.
voters list, and then of course Ichi surpassed it.
Yeah, give it a run. Okay, that's impressive.
Yeah.
Kyoshi is one of those ones where like they mobilize their fan base. Like there are a lot of people online. There's like, oh, there's like a Kyoshi thing. Like you got to talk about Kyoshi. Like go. But I also feel like that's kind of quieted down more recently. At least like I still hear people enjoy Kyoshi, but you can kind of feel that silence during the break weeks. Like with how long we've had between the various Kyoshi chapters, you don't see that hype. You don't really see fan art that's being spread online and whatnot. So I think it does have its fans, but they're not being vocal enough, at least right now, at least on the Western side. Granted, again, I don't check like Japanese Twitter, but whatever. I think it's been fun. Like while Kiyoshi one-shotting characters had its charm initially, I do enjoy getting to see other characters kind of struggle and fight and do various things. I think his mentor is great, even if he is the ultimate exorcist Kiyoshi version of Kite from Hunter x Hunter. Which, I would have loved to see more of Kite, but I digress. Jack Joe, I am the biggest Jack Joe fan. Like he is my favorite character in the series, followed by Cook the Exorcist Bird, because it's literally a chicken wearing shoes, and that's hilarious to me. I think the only weak point character-wise is the older female character that's part of the group, the older schoolgirl, just because she doesn't unfortunately have anything unique to her character. Like she is specifically known for being weak, and the only relevance that she's had recently was just like, oh, I can teach you how to better control the output of your spirit energy, and it's just like, okay, eh, eh. That doesn't really do anything to excite or whatnot. So I think she is the unfortunate just kind of downside of an otherwise interesting cast of characters. But we'll see where things go, just because the way that the plot is set up right now, it could end in 10 chapters, or it could keep going longer than that, because it is kind of set up either way. And unfortunately, we won't know how Kiyoshi Volume 2 sells until the start of February, when Volume 2 comes out. So who knows if it's getting saved or not, but it's kind of preparing itself to either end or continue regardless of what happens.
I hope it continues.
Yeah.
I
Agreed.
like when this manga introduced the final villain soon, and then that's what it feels like it's doing. And sure, it can mean that it's doomed, that it's gonna end soon, or at least that it's preparing itself to end soon. But I really enjoy when we have enough time of a build up for a final villain, and I hope that's what's happening with Kyoishi. And then number one.
Hang on. So keep going.
Number one is Ichi the Witch. 476 positive votes, 37 negative, 439 overall. It was number one on the voters, number one on Axel's, number one on Trenton's. And
What? It was number one on my list? What? Ichi the Witch? Number one? No way. What?
And it was number two on mine, as we've established.
Gotta be quirky.
Yeah.
Sorry, Crash.
It's okay to be wrong.
Like I've said, the only reason why I didn't put it number one, I had it number one. Like I said, I've had all of the three in number one while making the list. It was really hard because I really enjoyed them all. Almost the same for different reasons. I ended up going with Kyoishi because it's cool to be different. No, I just think Ichi the Witch needs a little bit more time to be number one. But everything that it's been doing so far is really cool, especially the character of Ichi. I really enjoy how different he is from the rest of the witches. Not only because he's a guy and the other are women, but because of how he acts towards the capture of the magics, where all of the others are doing things like witches and they're screaming at them and they're performing rituals and they're throwing spells, and he's just there hunting them, and he is scary at times, which is something that I love. The panel where they're hunting the little mushroom and he turns and there's Ichi right here is so good. And yeah, I understand why it's number one for a lot of people. Of course, I also think part of it is because of the artist, which, if you don't know, she's the same artist of Act Age, and because of the actions of the writer of Act Age, she got put in an unfortunate situation. So I think a lot of people were waiting for her return and wanted to celebrate her return. So I think that's at least part of why a lot of people jumped right into Ichi the Witch as soon as it started. Yeah, there's a lot of fans of the manga of the writer, which I know Axel is. I don't remember the name.
Yeah, same.
I'm a
here.
big fan of Welcome to Demon School Iruma-kun.
That's
Yeah.
It is literally one of my top 5 ongoing series right now,
and Axel
if not
needs-
number 1.
It was crazy, like hearing Ichi get announced and it being like, "Oh, Usuzaki's back, amazing," and then you read the other name and it's Osamu Nishi, and you're like, Iruma Osamu Nishi, like the top earner currently of Champion. So Jump poached one of Magazine's and Champion's biggest like creators.
Not to
Insane.
mention a female creator on top of that.
Yeah. I think that's been pointed out as well. This might be the first like Jump female duo,
Yeah.
which is very cool.
confirmed at least.
2 queens sitting atop the throne.
And to the writer, she's still working on Iruma. Like, she's doing 2 manga right now.
Yup.
Weekly manga. The same
Yup.
time. That's not easy. I know, like, forgot his name, the guy from Fairy Tail, Starts to an Age, the writer. He does
Hiro
like,
Mashima.
Is that exactly? Mashima does like 70 manga at the same time. But there's not many people who can do that. So it's amazing to see like someone actually working into manga. Obviously, she's only writing for Ichi, but I hope she's managing her health because that is also very important.
I assume they have a lot of assistants, probably, just because she needs it just to help. But a fun fact though, both times that Ichi was on the cover of Shonen Jump, Iruma was also on the cover of Weekly Shonen Champion at the same time.
Yeah.
But she literally owns that magazine. Like, Iruma is that manga in Champion. The fact that like it has the spin-off series in the same magazine.
Really?
Like, yes, like, well, and it's going to be ending soon because that's a whole drama thing, because it's based off of a real YouTube group. Not to mention they also had the prequel spin-off that was also in Champion at one point. And then they have a Mafia spin-off that is in the monthly magazine. She has creative input on that, but she isn't the one like drawing it and whatnot. But like, she is owning Champion right now. And the fact that they got her to come write for Ichi the Witch is insane. Like, it's to Trenton's point, when we heard that she was doing it, it was just like, what is this amazing pairing? Like,
yeah, it's really like,
yeah.
unbelievable, like that this is happening, and it's also a good manga as well. So like, yeah, like win-win. One, I guess, tie. Before we go into like, I guess, story elements or whatever. I've noticed in the artwork, which is really cool, but in how Usazaki draws her like chibi characters and some of the expressions, I feel like there's been some input from Nishi there. Some of them look quite familiar to me, which I think is very cool. So clearly Nishi's like done some little doodles or whatever to show like how Ichi might look, and Usuzaki's like adopted that. I find that really, really charming, and it fits the world as well because Ichi is very whimsical. It does have a bite to it, as we've seen in some of the later chapters. But I do feel like Usuzaki's art style has gone a bit softer here, and more, even more kind of beautiful in a way from Act Age, which was more refined and angular. So the changes artistically, I've really been enjoying with Ichi.
Yeah, it fits Ichi more, I'd say, the way she's drawing right now. There's not a lot in Act Age where you could draw like beautiful landscapes, where she's free to do that here a lot more. Act Age, I feel like the most important thing, the thing that I really enjoyed about it was always like the faces, to be able to see like she's acting like she is another character, and to have that shown in her face, in the reactions and the way she was expressing herself, that was really cool. Ichi, I think she's able to do something different with her heart, and I'm not sure which necessarily I prefer, because again, I think both of them fit the manga that she was drawing, but Ichi is beautiful. Like, that manga is beautiful.
It feels very, it feels different as well from a lot of other stuff that's coming out to me. Just with the way it's set up, like almost full female cast, because it's tackling these ideas of Ichi being the sole male witch. So you have tons and tons of female characters, and I wonder how that's going to be tackled in Jump. I think that could be a really cool subject matter to tackle in this boys magazine, which I don't know, I don't think it tackles issues of like gender all that much. And with Nishi's like penchant with Iruma for exploring some of that stuff with like cross-dressing arcs, I think we could have something really special with this. And then also you have the method of how a lot of the magics are being captured, which is almost like a riddle. They're not strictly just combat based, and we've seen that through the Hisame magic, which was Ichi had to make her look beautiful, where everyone else tried to dress her up and everything, and then he made it into sashimi, which was very, very fun and used his particular skill set. But it's this like problem solving, which isn't necessarily just a fight, which I think is very interesting. It sets it apart from the other manga. It just makes it fun to read as well, and it introduces a lot of like lore implications. I've always like thought about the world of Ichi and the magics a lot after it introduced them, because they're just fascinating and interesting, and I want to know more, especially after the recent like world ender magic was introduced. It's like, oh, okay, you're going like hard now. We get to see some of like the super high tier, I guess, magics at this point, and it's been super exciting to see this current arc unfold. Yeah, like I feel like this is a Jump All timer in the making that we're witnessing.
It's definitely showing that in the sales too, because like Ichi required emergency reprints, not regular reprints. It was emergency ones, and they came out like a week and a half after the initial release, compared to like Himaten and Kyoshi, where their reprints, like, they came out in November, I believe, and then like the reprints came out towards the beginning of December. And once Ichi's reprints hit, like it was at like 233 on like Daily Shoseki, and then jumped back up into the 20s after that. Like in these last couple days, it even ranked above Sakamoto Days and Windbreaker on one of the days. Like the Ichi mania is real right now, and I I couldn't be happier. But getting away from the sales and actually talking about the manga, obviously, as one of the number one Welcome to Demon School Iruma fans out there, and I really should post about it more on Twitter and whatnot, or YouTube videos or whatever. It needs to be said how incredible Nishi Osamu is for her world building and her character development, because those are two of the strongest elements of Iruma, and we are seeing that in Ichi the Witch. The world is so interesting so far. To everything that you guys have said, the magics are interesting. The the political world dynamics of like men versus women. Obviously, we've only seen one organization so far in one part of this world. We don't know what the other parts are scattered throughout and if those dynamics are any different, but it's something that we can explore. On top of the fact that, you know, the magics are acquired in different ways that are more interesting. It's also refreshing because we haven't had a fantasy adventure series in Shonen Jump succeed in the longest time. Like, when you think of fantasy adventure stuff and stuff that like is long running, you think of like One Piece as an example, although it's not necessarily in the same fantasy magic vein obviously as Ichi, but you know, everybody has these devil fruit powers and the world is like big and wondrous. And Hunter x Hunter is another one, although granted with Hunter x Hunter we haven't really had the whole, you know, adventure and fun aspect in a long time. A lot of that has been like, oh, here's politics on a boat, which is still good, don't get me wrong, but the last time that I could think of like a fantasy adventure one, I think of like Icehead Gill and I think of Ginka and Gluna, and both of those failed.
Also not good.
But Ichi, what?
They were also not good.
No, they weren't good, but I'm also kind of get into that. But like, the world of Ichi the Witch is great, but the characters are also fantastic. Like, the fact that we have Ichi, Descaris, and Komugi as this trio, they work so well. And like, Nishi knows how to do trios because she does that in Iruma as well, with Iruma, Asmodeus, and Clara. So we have this strong trio of characters that work off of each other so well. It's just, I love them so much. And oh my god, I can't. Why am I blanking on his name? The King Magic, Ororo.
Yeah.
Like, Ororo adds a fourth wheel to this trio as well, and like, I love how he works off of the various characters too. But the characters are so strong, and they work well off of each other, and that's what part of what makes it so endearing. There are so many elements to Ichi the Witch that make it as strong as it is, and that is genuinely why, like what has been said so far, Ichi the Witch is an all-timer. I genuinely believe that this is a series that can go the distance and build upon itself. And, you know, if it gets to a point where it gets an anime, I could genuinely see Ichi the Witch taking off in a similar way to Frieren did once it got its anime. I absolutely could see that. So, and well, like, we got the My Hero Academia seal of approval on like the volume ones as they're sold out like right now. Ichi can only go up from here, I think. And you're welcome, Crash, that the viewers, Trenton and I, all voted to put something that is actually going to last at number one this year.
I believe in Kyoishi. I believe in.
I'm more so just.
Last year,
I know we all liked Mama Yu Yu when it started, but like. Ugh.
I found that last year was funny. I'm such a big Kagurabachi fan now. But
same.
I I believe in Kyoshi as well, but I believe in Ichi like way more. I think Ichi's the series I believe in the most. I can't imagine a series I believe in more, to be honest. It just has everything going for it. Like the artists working on it, the setting, and just how it's been structured so far. Like everything is working in its favor. And it
Not
deserves
to
it.
mention,
It's so
there's
good.
so much fan art out there too. There is so much fan art. Like I like that and Kagurabachi are the ones that I consistently see fan art of all the time. And when you have people that are consistently putting it out there in like the Twitter space, online and whatnot, when you see people talking about it, it gets people hyped. Um, I was really happy to see like AJ Beckles. He's the one that is the English voice of Okaroon in Dandadan. He was recently posting about how Discaris is the GOAT, because she is the GOAT. But like, that's really cool that you have people that are, in increasingly more
Relevant.
what's the point I was going to say? Like more impressionable positions, telling people like, hey, this is interesting, check it out. So I'm very hopeful as well, and I believe I'm gonna keep buying Shonen Jumps with Ichi on the cover, and I'm gonna keep doing it. So I need it to keep going just so I have a lot of these books.
But to your point on last year, obviously, to anyone viewing, our opinions right now of these manga can change, like on the long run.
But not for number one. That's
Not
gonna be
for-
Ichi.
Not for Ichi. I don't see it.
Staying.
Like I said, I think I'm gonna like Ichi more as it goes on, because so far I don't really see it have any really actual weaknesses moving forward. But yeah, that was the list. What you guys thought of this year overall, just as a really short final thoughts? Because I think this year felt shorter in the sense where I think it had less manga that people talked about, bad or good. It was mostly like Ichi, Kyoichi,
And well, I guess
yeah,
Hematen and Shinobi.
Yeah.
Like, because
I don't see
again,
people
to your
talking about
point,
Shinobi.
a lot of people voted for it. I
They
mean,
did, but I don't see a lot of people talking about it.
Yeah, I definitely feel like I've heard less talked about stuff, both like good and bad. Maybe I mean there's like people are talking about Ichi and Kyoshi quite a bit, but I personally feel like this year's pretty solid. Like the stuff at the bottom that is bad isn't that bad. Like I don't like Necromance mainly because of author reasons, I guess. I'm just kind of disappointed. I think the quality overall is like fairly strong, and the I guess different genres and stuff, the different types of manga we've had this year is also fairly varied. So it's been a fun year, but maybe doesn't quite have as many highs as some other years. I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I think that's it.
trying to pull up last year's manga so I can remember. So like last year we had Fabricant 100, Tenmaku Cinema, Kill Blue, Do Retry, Nue's Exorcist, Martial Master Asumi, Icehead Gill, Mama Yu, Kagurabachi, Two on Ice, and Green Greens.
Green Lines will be
And I
number
guess
one.
technically Shadow Eliminators we put on that list as
Yeah.
well.
Should have been
Despite starting,
I'll
should
fix
have
it.
been here, but
I'll fix it next year.
it's fine. It's one of the, well, for next year, I mean, everything will be starting in 2025.
Yeah.
Compared to last year, where Shadow Eliminators was the first issue of the 2024 run, which put it in December. So I mean,
what I mean is that if any manga is released in 2025, but it's part of Jump's 2026 year, will not include it on the list.
I'm legitimately trying to decide if I liked 2023 or 2024 better.
I'm thinking
So I
about
think
those names, and I'm hearing like Icehead, Gil, and Dorothry, which are probably manga people are gonna put lower down as like stinkers, but they feel more memorable to me in a way.
Hmm.
I don't know, like I still remember like Big Arm Guy and I'm the best at axes. Like,
Exactly.
yeah,
There was less memorable
well,
manga, I feel, overall.
I I liked Ichi more. Of all the series between 2023 and 2024, I enjoy Ichi the Witch the most. But I have to say that I think 2023 was a stronger year than 2024. A little bit. Because the thing is, I will say, and we talked about how opinions can change. My opinion on Nue's Exorcist changed a lot over the course of this year because Nue's Exorcist got exponentially better. And I do enjoy Kill Blue. Um, but I also really enjoyed Green Greens, like Crash did in his
yeah.
top 10 of 2024. I'm still mad that that one ended because it was it ended up being so much better than Beast Children.
Yeah.
And even Two on Ice got so much better toward the end. Like, and I'm a Martial Master Asami fan as well. I I think I enjoyed 2023 a little bit more than 2024 overall. I think again, like for 2024, I really enjoyed Ichi the Witch. I really enjoyed Chojo. I also enjoyed Kiyoshi and Himaten, and to a lesser extent, Shinobi Undercover. I did enjoy all those, but I think 2023 collectively eked out better than 2024 just looking at the lists. But still good year, still 2 good years. Still 2 good years.
Solid. Yeah, I think we're gonna stop here. If you've watched the what's probably like more than 2 hour video long, thank you very much. Do not forget to subscribe to these two guys. They make amazing content. Mostly about like Shonen Jump. Trenton has a lot of really good videos on the history of Shonen Jump. I think a lot of people are gonna love it. He also does the Axe Files, which a lot of people really love. They're really good. You should go watch these. And then Axel just finally actually returned. I've been saying,
Isn't it crazy?
Yes.
You actually get to say Axel's doing something at the end of one of these videos for the first time in 3 years.
But you also had a really good comeback. You're doing great, and you have some cool plans for 2025. I can see. So
I'm slowly killing myself by reading 365 manga, but I'm having fun doing it.
that's all that matters. So go subscribe to these guys. If you haven't subscribed to me, also do that because I need that.
Trenton, do you have anything fun coming up?
I don't know, not really, just the usual
Not
stuff,
really, no.
I think.
He has
Don't
really,
talk to me. My stuff's gonna suck.
you have two solid series, and you're gonna continue those. I'm
Yeah,
assuming.
I guess we're getting into the 1990s for the history video. I'm working on that video right now. Just tons of like crazy classic series coming up. Yu Yu Hakusho, Slam Dunk, eventually One Piece as well, which is crazy for me,
Yeah.
having gone through like every single year of Jump so far.
The 90s, that's insane. I remember you doing the first one. Yeah, go check these guys out, and if you watch this here, thank you very much. I'll see you next video.
Bye.